Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tres Jolie channel, or my channel. I am here getting ready to use some of the card pieces, the tags, and the envelopes that I have left from this month's Tres Jolie Cards, Tags, and More kit. For this kit, I decided to make a small envelope junk journal. Well, an envelope card junk journal. So I used that piece of chipboard. Well, not really chipboard, but like very lightweight chipboard. I found it when I was going through things, so I don't know where it came from, but it was just the right flexibility for my cover. And to cover that plain white, I used the flower print that was on the packaging from the 49 and Market card kit. And I just glued it down, and I put that piece of teal kind of burlap-ish ribbon in there just to give some texture and color. And then I glued them together. They're only kind of tacked together because I do go back and I will sew them, but they're just kind of tacked together with some glue stick right now. While I was working on my inner pages, how I would do my inner pages, and just sort of getting things ready for assembly. So I just take some white gesso and coat those two Tres Jolie chipboard pieces that were in this month's kit. And I grabbed up a couple of Nouveau embellishment mousses that I've had for a while. They came in previous kits. This one is the Mother of Pearl, and I really kind of watered it down. I didn't really want it thick, and I used it more as a kind of like a creamy paint. And as you can see, I just kind of went in with my fingers and added it on that way. But that Mother of Pearl came in the June 2019 kit. So after that Mother of Pearl had mostly set up, I kind of wet it a little bit and went in with just a round brush and the Coral Calypso. That's that peachish color there. And that was in the December 2020 scrapbooking kit. So those two embellishment mousses are from previous kits, and I just used them to add some color to those chipboard pieces. Alright, for my assembly, I just add some score marks so I can make kind of a rounded spine. It's 1 inch total, so I have a score mark in the middle, and then a 1/4 inch to the left and a right, and then a 1/2 inch to the left and right. So there's a total of 5 score lines in there, and that's just to make it so that it curves easier and more smoothly. And then I folded in that white chipboard just to reinforce the edges and kind of wrap them around. I glued them down and tucked around that burlap-ish ribbon. And here I just got this is just some plain white. I don't know what it was. I think it might have been like the lining to some curtain that I had found in like the clearance section. But it's just some plain white fabric that I tore into strips. And then I came in, and these are the glossy sprays that are in this month's mixed media kit. And on this project I combined the Cards, Tags, and More kit, which kind of has those muted, more vintagey tones to it, And I combined it with the mixed media kit, which is got the brighter tones to it, but they still go really well together. And I like combining like the muted with the bright and the vintage with the new. So that's what I'm doing here. And I'm just going through, I'm using the gel plate that was in the mixed media kit, some of my homemade stamps, which I do go over. I did it in my second project this month, which was on the 14th, and I really go over jelly plates in that project. And I just go through, I had wet down those strips of fabric first, just so it would absorb easier. And then just start going in with my white paints, my homemade stamps, and those glossy sprays, and just sort of keep going until I kind of like the patterns and the color combinations that I have. Alright, to make the sheets, I pulled out my my 8x10 gel plate, just so that I could do it faster, because I'm just using full copy size regular printer paper to make some colorful prints to use in my junk journal. Like I said, if you go back and you watch the video from April 14th that I have, I go into a lot of detail about using gel plates, and I kind of go over the same techniques then that I used for this project. On this particular one, I call this pattern, I forgot to make sure that the lid was screwed on before I shook it. Fortunately, I don't shake near my face, so I only got it all over my hands. I mean, it wasn't all the way loose, but it wasn't screwed on all the way tight. And I do now have a lovely purple splatter on my floor, which is fortunately also, I do not have like a finished floor where I craft for obvious reasons. I'm messy, and it would be too stressful to worry about having a nice floor where I was working. This is probably also why I do not like fingernail polish. It wouldn't matter. You'd never be able to see it under what I do to myself half the time. That little card there was the packaging from the tag set that was in this month's kit, and I like the flower print on it, so I incorporated that also into this little junk journal. For these, I was just I was grouping my little fabric flowers together, and adding some of the Dina Wakley sprays just to get everything kind of matching. You can see I used the purple spray on the kind of purplish flowers, the green on the green flowers, and so on. Alright, all of my papers are dry. All of my glosses are dry, my flowers are dry. So I'm just going to kind of start the assembly process. Going to go over these real quick. You can see, because it was a gloss paint, gloss sprays, there is quite a bit of shine to those. So to write in this journal, you probably need something like a Sharpie kind of marker. The jelly pens might write on it. The Sakura. I don't have a pen near me right now, so I never remember things, what they're called. But you would need to make sure you had something other than a regular ballpoint, because I don't think those would write very well on those glossy surfaces. Just flipping through the pages I did. I don't use all of them in here. You would have seen some of these sort of get recycled through the printing in my April 14th video when I really went over gel printing. But a lot of these pages do make it into this week's project. Alright, kind of assembly time. Getting an idea of which way everything's going to go. I grabbed up some of that kind of rustish colored fabric. I have some of that dark sage-ish green fabric in there. I use those strips that I had done as some of the, not seams, the binding. When I have like two separate things that don't have their own fold, I guess I should say. Hinge. That was the word. I used some of that fabric as hinges on my pages. I knew I could get there eventually. And I just use some of that printed paper right there, that gel printed paper, for the inside of my cover. Some of that printed fabric I had done to kind of finish up those edges of the cover. And I just I use my Yoo-hoo stick just to tack things in place lightly, because I do go back and sew my cover and my pages together with just some black thread. That is just some unprinted, same white fabric but without the print on it, that I used initially for my spine there. So you can see how I do my stitching. I do it around the edges. I have some of this tulle that I do add in. There you can see, I went through, I stitched those fabric hinges down to the pieces that I want together. The two envelopes I never closed, I just have them folded in. So I unfolded them and when the flaps are all folded over, you can't see the seam on the inside. So now it's really just to getting my pages ready to go and getting my layers put together and deciding how I want to build my book. This is where I come in. You can see I layered up the fabric. I added some tulle into that fabric, and then I used those just to make little tuck spots on some of the pages that are in the journal. I backed all of my gel print paper with some kind of lightweight pink cardstock, and instead of trying to cut them down and then line them up, I just made the full sheets, and then that way when I cut them I knew that I would know that everything lined up right after the glue had dried, and I cut them down to the sizes I wanted in the journal. And this one, the one that I do on the yellow cardstock, is the page that I cut into just some homemade tags, which is why I chose this one, because it didn't have a lot of the glossy gel on it, and it had the stripes, so it kind of gave me a guide to work with when I did start putting my tags together. And then I went through, this is actually the rest of the packaging from the tags and from the 49 a Market card kit that were in this month's Cards, Tags, and More kit, which I do also turn into tags that I tuck into the journal. Here is where I start work on the closure. I didn't really have a destination or a plan. At first I was just going to use that white fabric, which I had sewn together to strengthen it, doubled it up. And then I saw the bright pink fabric and more tulle, and decided that it kind of all needed to be layered together. So I do just run stitches through everything, kind of scrunch things up when I do decide to sew it together. Alright, I trimmed down the edges of my pages. I cut the pieces out that I plan on turning into tags. And then I decided to add some flowers and buttons to those clusters that I had made that are tuck-in spots in the finished journal. So I hand stitched on the buttons through the flowers, and then hand stitched just some X's on each of those. Just the same way that I do on my closure, my tie closure. While I do use my sewing machine for the majority of the construction, I use just a needle and some embroidery floss, and I use the full 6 strands on here so it's nice and thick, just to add some decorative stitching on here. Not super decorative, I just do some back stitching with the white, and then use that black just to hand stitch on some X's. Alright, all of my pages are cut down to size. I have finished off all of the edges. And then I just made a little template so that all my holes would be lined up. And I just do a 3-hole pamphlet stitch, which normally I would go from the inside so that my tie is on the inside. But on this journal, I wanted my inside clean, so I made it so that it would, when it was finished, it would tie together along the spine, and then I could kind of tuck those tails in and kind of hide them and make them part, or make them hidden and part of the spine. And this is where I come in and add just those little tuck-in cluster spots, just with some glue, and then I use binder clips to hold them in place while the glue sets up. With the majority of this put together, I come in here and I actually spread out my 3D gloss gel there, spread it out on that nonstick mat, and then put the chipboard piece in there to make sure that the whole surface of that chipboard piece got covered, but so that it didn't really come up through the details on there. And then I just weighed them down and let them dry before coming back in, adding the rest of the rub-ons that I had from the kit this month, and adding some buttons to the spine and finishing up my closure. So this is where I come in, grab up some buttons, use as my flower centers, and kind of really clean up that spine. And with the buttons on there, the bookbinding thread just really kind of blends in and doesn't stand out so much anymore. Alright, just to add a little bit of the same colors that are on the inside to that cover, I just made little puddles of those glossy sprays, grabbed up a paintbrush and just added a few touches here and there, drying in between the layers so that I wouldn't get mud, kind of accenting the leaves and the shapes of the flowers there on that surface. Then I came back in and I just used the cap from that glossy spray, dipped it in to make the little circles for that front cover. Alright, the journal is put together. So while all of those glues dry and I make sure that everything is dry, because I have it set up off to the side, I decide to work on my tags. So I cut them down to size. I use my corner chompers to put the two corners, or to clip two corners off. And I don't use a hole punch on these and punch holes. I just tear small strips of fabric and make little pull tabs on the top. Also, while I was just sort of sitting around trying to figure out other ways to add a little bit of extra interest, I decided to make up some wax seals with some coordinating colors. You can see there. See what I come up with, and I do add a few of these wax seals into the finished journal. Alright, with all my pieces ready, torn pieces of paper, I have all my tags laid out just so that I can quickly layer up the strips of paper, layer up the flowers I want to use, and just get them ready to have their stitching added to them. I just grabbed up some of those edges from my pink cardstock back jelly print paper and grabbed up some more of those flowers, and I just make some custom paper clips to go in here just using my hot glue gun. Here's where I come in, and I just use my Tim Holtz tiny attacher and just staple on the little folds of fabric for the tag folds. A few of them are the bits I have left of the fabric that I had jelly print on, and some of it is just this plain pink fabric. I very carefully turned some of those wax seals into custom paper clips, but to make sure that the hot glue didn't completely destroy the image in the wax seals, I just weighed them down with the same wax seal that I had used. And then when I found that didn't work out really well, you can see I kind of re-softened those wax seals and the hot glue with my heat gun, and then re-stamped the seals and put everything back together. Alright, the pages are all dry. My paper clips are all ready. My tags are almost ready. I'm just kind of seeing how many tags I have in comparison to how many places to put them. Trying to make sure I didn't need to make any more. Trying to get an idea for how everything's kind of laid out, and just adding a couple of wax seals just directly onto a few pages. This is for my closure. That is just a piece of headband that I think it was on clearance at Target one time, and I just cut a piece off so that it's nice and stretchy, and I really ran it through the sewing machine quite a few times to make sure it was adhered fully. I didn't like the unfinished look on my tags. They have white thread on them, not black. I didn't like the unfinished back, so I went through and added another layer of cardstock just to really clean up those backs. I didn't like the backs of the staples sticking out. I didn't like the thread. I really kind of wanted a clean look, so I just went in with another layer of cardstock. So now my project is complete. I hope you enjoyed this little journal, and it gave you some ideas of what you can do with this month's card kit, this month's mixed media kit. If you want to know more about gel printing, my video from April 14th is all gel printing. A lot of the things that I do for this journal, I do go over techniques and ideas in that video. And so there you have it. It's nice and thick. The closure is nice and long. It has the elastic on it. Lots of room for expansion here. So you can just wrap your ends around and tuck them under and bring that up and grab a hold of one of those buttons. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give a thumbs up for this video, and feel free to share it. I hope that you enjoyed all of the videos this month. Don't miss the May reveal in just a few days. Thank you, and I will see you again next month.